Please excuse the format of this video coming up. I thought it was going to be a short, and it turned out to be too long. The project I'm working on right now has some cracks in it, and I decided to go ahead and do some bow ties to stabilize the cracks. And what I did was I made this bow tie template myself. I had to double up in thickness because the piece of plexiglass I had was way too thin, but it works perfectly for double thickness. So now I know next time I make a template with this stuff, I got plenty more. And I just drew a picture of a bow tie, really. And then using a templating bit on my router with a collar, I put it on my plunge router, and then I cut out the center bit. And I set the depth. And now what I'm going to do is take out this collar here, and when I take that out, I'll move this template to another location and try it out and see what happens. Okay, I have now cut the outline of the inside piece that's supposed to fit in there, and now the trick is to very carefully remove this template so it doesn't break, and then I'm going to cut this out. Now this is just a test, so it's on the same board, but I'm going to cut it out and see if it fits. It didn't work. The bow ties didn't fit in place. I tried them forwards, backwards, upside down, whatever. They didn't work. I figured it out. I've never done bow ties before on a project, and I thought it was easier, and I didn't think this whole thing through. It's still pretty easy, I'm thinking, if I did it right. So I made this bow tie jig myself, and it doesn't show up very well on the camera, and I apologize for that. But since I made it myself, it's not very precise. So what I was doing is I was routing out the bow tie itself and the crevice for the bow tie to go into. Luckily, I was smart enough to use a test piece of wood just to practice on before I did it on the real deal. Always use test pieces of wood on first time. So since I routed the bow tie itself and the crevice with this facing the same way up, when I cut out the bow tie out of the piece of wood and tried to flip it upside down, then it didn't fit. And I couldn't figure it out, and I thought it was something I was doing. And in a way it was. You either need to have an extremely precise jig that's precisely identical all the way around, or you route the bow tie, let's say this way, and then you flip this whole unit upside down and route the crevice the other way. Now I need to make a new bow tie jig because this jig is not good enough. It's a little too jiggy. So, but that being said, I can either go to one of the woodworking stores and buy a jig that's precise, and have to wait 3 days or a week delivery time because I don't have a woodworking store in my city, or I can make another jig that is and mark it A and B, so this is A and this is B, and cut all the bow ties one side and all the crevices the other side, and it should work. That I am going to do tomorrow, and we'll see how that works. Meanwhile, my wife and I are going to go do something for fun to relax, and maybe I can get over this immense amount of frustration of spending 4 hours making a failure of myself. All right, now I'm thoroughly confused. So I made a new template. There we go. You can see it now. And I marked it for one side for being the bow tie, and then the other side for being the carve out. And so I cut out this piece, and this piece needs to be cut out with the collar in. And then I cut out this piece. Now I marked this side because when I cut it out, it still didn't fit in to my space, no matter how I do it. Then I said, I wonder. So I just cut off the back, and I put it here, and excuse the noise. And it fits. So not only do you have to flip over the template, you also have to flip over the cutout piece if your template isn't precise. That, you know, there's a hand signal. So that's what's going on. It's blowing my mind. Logically I understand it, but it took me a little while to figure it out. One thing I discovered with making these bow ties is that slower is better, especially on the bow ties. When you're carving out the gap for the bow tie, it's not as important, but it is definitely better for the bow ties. It keeps you from making a mistake, and you can only get one pass at it. So if you dig into the bow tie, then it's done. You got to start a new one. Good. Finally, after every woodworking project, you should always count your fingers. You end with 10. Good job.
I prefer a bolo tie myself.